Hello, I'm the author Michael Campling, and welcome to what I'm going to try and call Thriller Thursdays. It is a bit of an experiment today, so who knows what's going to happen all the time. I've had an idea of reading some of my books and other people's books, perhaps snippets of them, on different themes, different days of the week. So let's give it a little try here and see how it goes. So you can find my stuff for this. I've decided to put it on Substack for the moment, which is at author Michael Campling.substack.com, and I'll try and I will arrange everything into sections so it'll be neat and you can sort of keep up to date with stuff. Okay, I'll begin. So today I am gonna, I don't know if I should set up a mirroring thing or if this is actually as it's coming out, but it is called Lawful Duty, and it is a Devonshire crime thriller. It's a police procedural set here in the UK. I was going to give you a bit of a snippet of the opening and see how we get on. So it's a book that's been out for a little while. I'm working on the sequel at the moment, so the second book will be out early 2026 sometime, given that it's already February, but before too long, maybe Marchish, who knows. So, Lawful Duty by Michael Campling. Prologue, 1992. Exeter. Standing outside the Icebox nightclub, Lindsay Clifford fumbled in her handbag for her cigarettes and lighter. The box of Marlboros was almost empty, but she had a couple left, and that would see her through until the morning. Tomorrow was Sunday. She would have a lie-in and then walk to the shop and stock up. As well as cigarettes, she'd buy a magazine, a loaf of bread and a pint of milk, then back to her flat for a mug of strong coffee and a mountain of toast. A surefire cure for the hangover she was bound to have. She lit up her Marlboro and breathed deep, filling her lungs, then tilting her head back to send a plume of smoke into the cool September air. That was better. Lindsay looked out over the river, watching the glimmering reflections on the water's surface. It's pretty, she told herself. But beneath the gently shimmering reflections, the undulating water appeared even darker than the night sky, and the thought of its murky depths sent a chill to her stomach. Lindsay's long dress was thin and did nothing to shield her against the cold, but she'd be okay. In the club it had been too hot, too muggy, the atmosphere laden with the scents of stale sweat, cheap perfume and spilt beer. She looked around while she smoked a cigarette, imagining the smoke warming her from the inside out. There was no one in sight. She was completely alone, and that, too, was okay. It'll be winter soon, she thought. Endless rain and short gloomy days. All the more reason to make the most of the crisp autumnal evening. Lindsay allowed herself to revel in the moment, savouring the solitude, the sensation of the night air stroking her skin, the stillness. Earlier, the cobbled streets of Exeter's quayside had been buzzing, crowds of young people chatting and laughing as they wended their way past the grand old buildings and headed for the club, urged on by the promise of a drink and a dance. Some had been drunk, some tipsy, but most had been behaving themselves and trying to look reasonably sober. If the bouncers thought you'd had a skinful, they'd turn you away, and that would spell an early end to the evening. Once the pubs threw you out at 11, there was nowhere else to go but home, and where was the fun in that? Lindsay sighed. She'd be going home on her own tonight. Tony was being a prick. He'd brought the lads along and they'd all had too much to drink, and the whole gang of them downing lager as if their lives depended on it. As far as he was concerned, he was out with the boys. Acting like teenagers. Acting like teenagers, she thought. It'd be pathetic if it wasn't so funny. Tony was the same age as her, for God's sake, and at 23 it was about time he grew up. Some of her old university friends were settling down, sending out wedding invitations and talking about mortgages. But she was nowhere near that state of affairs, and so long as she stayed with Tony, she'd get no closer to married life. It's time to move on, she decided. It was fun for a while, but it's run its course. She'd break the news to Tony soon, maybe even tonight. Sometimes you had to rip the plaster off, get the pain over and done with. Then you could forget about the past and move on. Lindsay mentally rehearsed what she'd say to him. The problem was she never knew how Tony would react when he'd been on the beer. He could be needy, wheedling and begging for affection. But she'd seen a darker side to him too. Fists clenched, eyes dark with anger, his teeth bared. Jealousy and rage. It was a bad combination. All it took was for a man to talk to her in the pub or even to look at her in a certain way, and Tony would barge in, all puffed up and full of testosterone, draping his arm heavily over her shoulders, claiming her as his own. I should have dumped him months ago, Lindsay told herself. To Tony, she was a possession, a prize to be shown off. Even now he might be wondering where she'd got to. He had a habit of haunting the edge of the dance floor, his gaze fixed on her, his eyes narrowed, watching her every move. No more. She'd see him in a minute, and she'd give him the bad news straight away. But all that could wait until she'd finished her smoke. Lindsay strolled toward the river, walking right up to the quay's edge. Below her, the dark water lapped against the ancient stone wall. A shiver ran over her skin, and she used her left hand to rub her right arm, her fingers sliding over the smooth bare skin. Staring down at the water made her dizzy, so she looked back up at the sky. That last drink had been a mistake. She didn't feel herself. Usually by now she'd be ready to dance the night away, but something wasn't right. All she wanted to do was go home and go to sleep. From behind her, she heard footsteps grating on the cobbles, and she half turned to see a figure emerging from the club. It'll be Tony, she thought, come to check up on me. It was time for her to face the music. Lindsay took one last look at the river. Her cigarette was finished, so she held it out over the water and let it go. The tip flared for a moment, then the cigarette hit the surface and went out. She thought it would make a fizz, but there was nothing, not even a splash. The bright point of heat and light had been extinguished without a sound. Phew, that's the end of the prologue. Got through it with only one sort of major mistake and one little one, which hopefully not too many people noticed. Sort of slightly fluffed one word as well. Said the wrong word. Okay, well, I hope you enjoyed the sound of that. That is called Lawful Duty by me, Michael Campling, and yeah, it's out. The ebook at the moment is only on Amazon, and so it can be read for free in Kindle Unlimited. But otherwise, it's fairly reasonably priced and on all the Amazon stores. The paperback should be more widely available, but it's a fairly thick one. Set in Exeter in the 90s, so some slightly different references that you might be used to. You might not be so used to. If you're thinking of, gosh, she sounds very young to be getting married, you've got to remember that 92 is actually quite a long time ago, and people had slightly different views on life. Also the smoking references, of course, much more common in those days. And that the way the pubs used to throw people out as well at that time, very much in English law at that time, I believe. I hope so. I check all these things at the time. I hope you enjoyed it. If you like it, worth following me everywhere I've posted this. I'll see where it goes. At the moment, as I say, I'm recording it on Substack, and that makes a sensible home for it to me. But I'll have a look at the other channels as well, YouTube and so on, and we'll see where it fits best and where it gets some support. But subscribing to the Substack seems like a good way of keeping track of it, which is, a free subscription. I might make a pay level later for anybody who wants to tip in a bit of support, but that would be all you would get, I think, would be sort of a sense of supporting something and keeping it going. I can't really do extra sets of readings. I plan to do several a week already on different themes, and I can't redo extra ones just for subscribers. The other thing to do would be to go to my Ko-fi or coffee, ko-fi.com, which is you can drop me a cup of tea there. I will put links to that on the post in Substack, so that should be easy to find. But I haven't got it to hand, and I don't want to say the wrong URL. So you can see, not terribly slick today because this is entirely new experiment. And I hope you feel that was worth a few minutes of your time and you enjoyed it. I will plan to read the next chapter and so on and try and keep going. And then I will also try and throw in some other thrillers if I can find stuff that kind of will fit, and just maybe read snippets of things. Even if you know the book, it might be interesting to hear me reading it in my own interpretation of it. But I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you thought it was fun. And let me know, there's whatever comments and likes and subscribes and anything like that all helps, because then I know people will think it's worthwhile, and I will keep going, and I'll keep going and going and going and doing lots of it. I enjoy reading stuff out loud, and I would have liked to do it live, but this was an experiment. We'll try to do future ones live, in which case you can perhaps do various thumbs up and stuff as we go. But let's see how it goes. All right. Hope you enjoyed it. Take care. Look after yourselves. Happy reading. And bye for now.